Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be going over that ongoing snowstorm and I guess major winter storm bringing freezing rain, snowfall, and even a lot of flooding rainfall as well. This is a massive storm and it's about halfway over, but we're going to go over the second half of it. We're going to be going over what's ongoing currently, and we're also going to be talking about beyond this storm and what's coming up next after this storm is all said and done. Anyways, before I get into this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think that this winter is going to come to a bit of an early end? Do you think February will be kind of the last winter month? Or do you think this is going to be one of those winters that just drags on through March and even into April? Let me know your thoughts as far as, those things, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and first things first, we're taking a look at our national radar imagery. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now with our ongoing snowstorm, and let's just take a look here. I think one of the more interesting things right now is just the fact that we have so much, I guess so many people involved with this storm, so many states. I mean, you talk about Texas all the way up through Oklahoma, Missouri, the Ohio Valley, and up into the Northeast. This is just such a long storm, and I talked about that yesterday. How many folks are being impacted by this right now? Um, a lot. A lot of people are being impacted by this storm. It's amazing. Chicago, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, um, St. Louis, Dallas area. I mean, I would say, man, probably like 50% of the United States population is being impacted by this storm at least. It's amazing how many large cities are in here and just how many people are feeling the brunt of this. Just a truly impactful storm, if you ask me. We also do have a lot of precipitation up here. Not a lot, but quite a bit of precipitation kind of for the northwestern region of the United States. But obviously, the main focus is definitely this huge, huge storm taking place here in the eastern United States. So let's just quickly talk about the northwest real quick, and then we'll obviously get into the main event here. We do have some precipitation. This has really fizzled it down over the past couple of hours, though. You'll see that it really lightens up over time. We have had some of this kind of redeveloping here on the southern end, but really nothing huge. We do have some snowfall, probably bringing 1 to 3 inches of snowfall here for eastern. I would say southeastern Washington and northeastern Oregon there, and then we've had some there for the Cascades, probably bringing a couple inches of snowfall, possibly. But again, nothing major, only minor precipitation at this point. And we really have to chop this storm in half. So let's start with like the southern regions here. Near Dallas, you can see we have some icy mix going on for a lot of these regions near Dallas. And this is actually sliding further and further southeast over time. So that's also worth mentioning. A lot of snowfall here on this kind of more northern end of Texas, the northern and western end of Texas. Also, a lot of Oklahoma in the snowfall as well. Usually they get more of an icy mix with storms, but we're seeing the ice slide away kind of to the southeast here in Oklahoma, and we're seeing mostly a lot of snowfall here for the more central regions. Obviously, there's a dry slot here, but it looks like that will fill in with this region of snowfall that is heading towards central Oklahoma. But there is a dry slot there at this point. And as we zoom into Dallas-Fort Worth area, you can see they are in that icy mix. Those pinks and reds are mostly going to be probably freezing rain, considering how this storm has been, and that's going to be a lot of what impacts are it's going to be the most major impacts with this storm, in my opinion. We do have this dry slot here, like I mentioned, because the snow up here and snow down here, and this snowfall will be heading into the region. So probably by the time everybody's waking up in the Oklahoma City area, it will be snowing, which is pretty interesting. Not the most common situation. We also have, a lot of freezing rain taking place down here near Austin, Waco, Brady, Brownwood. I haven't heard of some of these areas, but it is snowing currently. So again, Dallas, Fort Worth in the freezing rain, might switch over to snow later on as this area continues to push further east and further south there. Let's see. Little Rock, we have some freezing rain taking place. Pine Bluff as well. I feel like I'm talking about severe weather because this is just the areas that you're typically talking about when we're referring to severe weather. It's interesting. We're talking about winter weather this time. Fort Smith, freezing rain as well. Springfield, Missouri, there you're in the snow. Some of these more southeastern regions of Missouri are in the freezing rain. Poplar Bluff, for instance, and surrounding regions. St. Louis fully in the snow, probably a major snowstorm for you guys, I'm assuming. Indianapolis here, fully snow. We see Evansville down there to the southwest. We do see some freezing rain taking place there. Cincinnati, Ohio, of course, you're moving into the freezing rain as well. The band of freezing rain here on the northern end does seem a little thinner here according to our radar. I'm not exactly sure if that is the case, but down here to the southeast, you can see way wider area of freezing rain taking place. And the snowstorm is just getting started up here in the Ohio Valley. We do have Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York beginning to get included. This northern region here of Indiana and Ohio is about to get absolutely slammed with this snowstorm for sure. Even northern Indiana there and southern Michigan also going to be included here. Huge storm, and you can see to the east, I mean, we have a ton of rainfall here for all of these regions that aren't getting freezing rain and aren't getting snow. There's also a ton of rainfall heading in like this, and it's doing what we call training, because you imagine the way a train moves. Okay, let's imagine you're the track, right? You are on the train track. Training is referring to the train heading over you, and car after car after car is heading right over you. With weather, it's more like band after band after band instead of train cars. Obviously, it would be more like these heavier areas of rainfall. So, like, for instance, you're here in Kentucky, you just got a heavier band of rainfall. Well, I can see, like, many different areas of heavy rainfall that are also going to be training over you. I hope that makes sense. That's a analogy we use frequently in the weather community to refer to rainfall, snowfall, anything like that. But I can see a lot of areas. Let's just try to point one out. This is going to be more of an educational thing. So, for instance, here in northern Georgia, we can see multiple train cars heading over your region. Let's call it the yellow areas of heavier rainfall. We can see that once this starts out, we see an area of yellow. It eventually moves out, but we see more areas. Okay, well, then my radar disappears for a second. But we do see that more and more yellow areas come over this region, and that frequently leads towards flooding when we do see these, areas training over you. It's mostly when we see a straight band of rainfall, and it's heading in the direction that would bring the most rainfall there, like we see here. This band of rainfall is shaped like this. It's long, but it's heading directly along it. So we see it more like a stationary front type movement is usually when you'd see something like this. When the cold front stalls out and the warm and the cold are battling like we talked about yesterday, and everything's just moving along the front, we frequently see this type of banding or training happen in those types of circumstances. Anyway, I hope that's not too boring. I hope that's educational, and I hope it made sense what I was just talking about. What we're going to do is we're going to move on, and we're finally going to talk about that modeled guidance. Now, this is our European model. We can see this is our storm that is ongoing, absolutely massive, like we mentioned. Let's just move on with this, and what we're going to see happen is that snowfall is going to get a lot heavier here for the Ohio Valley and portions of the Northeast, as expected. Also, the freezing rain gets a little bit more widespread here on the southern end. Almost covered it up there a little bit. There, where we saw it very thin on the actual radar, it is going to thicken a bit, and it's going to become a little bit more widespread there. Things will quiet up over the south central United States throughout the day. This will be about 3 p.m. on Thursday. Central time, it might be a little bit earlier. That's mostly Eastern time. Now, by the time we're reaching overnight hours, this is about 5 a.m. on heading into tomorrow. We do see some snowfall here on the northern end. Freezing rain here in a lot of the interior northeast here, even to coastal Maine. These regions, again, more in the northeast now. And then we see a lot of this rainfall still training for these same areas. So flooding will be a big possibility with this storm. Eventually, this storm obviously finally moves out. Total snowfall from this point forward, this is not the total snowfall. Let's move on. So what is still to come is some more snowfall for these regions. We talked about how much is expected for these regions. A lot of it has already come down. This is what is still to come. And when we move to the central United States, there's still a foot or more expected for some of these regions. We expected dusting, if anything, in the grays, and then 2 to 6 inches here in the blues still. And if you're in the purples, it's going to be 6 to 10. But it's these pink areas where we're at about 10 to 20. So that's going to be some heavier pockets of snowfall still left over to come. And then for the Northeast and Ohio Valley, I know the Ohio Valley, we've had some snowfall obviously already take place. But for the Northeast, this is going to be all the snowfall. So we're taking a look at 15 to 20 inches of snowfall for a lot of these folks, which is a ton compared to how this winter has gone. I'm sure a lot of these interior northeastern regions are very happy about this because they've actually not had a lot of snowfall compared to normal this winter so far. So they are getting slammed with a major snowstorm this time around. So this is kind of a, we're beginning to get into the right situation, especially for a lot of the ski resorts and other industries that require snow. I don't know how many other industries really require snow other than skiing, but there might be some out there. I guess snow plowers, people who shovel snow, things of that nature. Let's move on to the GFS model because I want to talk about after the storm is gone. There's no disagreement with really the snowfall to come, so I'm not even going to bother. Well, I guess what I will show you on the European model, since it's high resolution, is the freezing rain total. What's still to come with the freezing rain? We better go over this. We do expect freezing rain for all these regions. Kind of a light glaze for the lighter pink regions, but it's as we move into these little bit more medium pinks. So I'm talking these areas near Texas, areas like this. We see some of it going on in here as well. Not these darker areas, I'll get to that in a second, but these more medium areas, that's where we're at about a quarter inch to about 3/4 of an inch, I would say, for a lot of those regions. It's these darker pinks is when we're moving more towards an inch or more, which is what I'm really concerned about. So for western Kentucky, western Tennessee, some of eastern Arkansas there, and southeastern Missouri, those are the regions we're really concerned about. And as I move to the east as well, we see some of this for southern Ohio, an inch plus, northern Kentucky also getting involved there. And then mostly for the Northeast, we see under an inch, which is good news. But generally, a lot of freezing rain is on the way. I just wanted to go over that real quickly. Now, as we talk about the upcoming pattern, as of now, they have this southeast storm really being a non-event. I don't think there's enough cold air to really make it a snowstorm, and we'll watch it play out, but it's kind of just an all-rain event. You see it here. You know, if this was supposed to be a snowstorm, we would see snow on the northern end of this, but there's just not. There's not a huge trough in the east. Really, what we see here on the jet stream is like a tiny little trough. What you would need for snow in these regions is a jet stream that looks like this, and it certainly doesn't at this point, based on what I'm seeing. So that slides off innocently, really no snowfall involved here. It just kind of goes away. We do see a lot of energy in here, which tells me probably we have a setup like this. Northern jet, well, northern jet's not even doing that. It's kind of like this. Southern jet is like this, right over here. This is just so flat. It's not even meeting up with it. And that's why we're not seeing these become snowstorms. These are just sliding off. We still see this southern jet coming in like this. Now, if we had a big old trough right here, we would be seeing snowstorms along here still, like we've been seeing these snowstorm opportunities, but we're not in the same pattern we were in, and we're not expected to be. So you see how that tries to pull up the coast. Another one. This is February 10th. So this is about 7 days from now. We see another storm try to slide up the coast. But the cold is heading in by this point, but it's just not soon enough. So this actually would be a close call for a potential snowstorm. But as you can see, it does slide off innocently. And then we see a lot of cold available, but not a lot of storminess anymore. You see this area has dried up now. So we're not seeing those nor'easters slide up the coast anymore. It's dry. That's what we're seeing. Now, this is a huge cold front that we see push through here on the GFS model. This is very long range, by the way. This is 10 days out, so take this with a grain of salt. On the back end of this, we do see snowfall, but usually these snowfall events that come with cold fronts like this do not lead to much. So let's take a look at the east real quick. I will show you what this would entail, but it's not going to be a whole lot. Yeah, so generally, a dusting, if anything, in the grays, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall potentially here in some of these blue regions, if something like this was to take place. Minor snowfall event in that case. So that is worth noting that this would not be some sort of major snowfall event if it played out like that. So overall, we do get a storm here. This is a pretty major storm with a trough like this. Very interesting. Very warm in the east by this frame. This is all the way on February 18th, so we're halfway through the month. A little bit of a ridge in the west. A huge ridge in the east, and then a big old trough in the central United States, and we get a snowstorm trying to develop around where we're seeing one right now. This would bring a lot of severe weather, in my opinion, if a storm like this was to play out. A lot of interesting snowfall here in the south central United States, again, like we're seeing now. We saw this last year, where storm after storm was taking place kind of like this. We've seen one now that's taking place right now. Could we see more? Potentially, yeah, that's very interesting. But I think what's worth noting is for a majority of this time period after this storm, it's actually relatively quiet. So we're going to likely head into a period of more quiet conditions with less major storms, really, except for that one in the very long range that this model trends at. Take it with a really big grain of salt because that is very far out, and I highly doubt that would happen. It is a storm signal at this point, but I doubt that storm will happen that way. But at this point, I think we're heading into a quieter pattern, likely warmer in the eastern United States because of how cold January had been. It's going to feel much warmer than that. We might have near normal conditions, but it's not going to be frigid like it was in January. It does not appear. And snowfall opportunities are basically going to go away because the trough is not going to be meeting up with that southern jet like I mentioned earlier. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, we're at a 5 out of 6. This pattern is very self-explanatory, and I don't feel really any doubt about it. Also, I don't feel any doubt about the storm that's happening right now, so we're at a very high confidence of 5 out of 6. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how much snowfall do you think is the maximum we'll see with this storm? And James Marr said, I think 20 inches is possible for anywhere from Ohio Valley to the interior portions of the Northeast. And I think at the end of the day, we will reach these amounts for some spots. So I think that's a really good guess there. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovin Nagel, Larry the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Cuddle, Lessa Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Bill Dallas, Gary's, and John Colisi also. I would also like to thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.